Yeah, do you know what? I could talk for England on this subject. If it was an Olympic sport, I would be competing with the aim of getting gold, because I think that for me, there's five key elements, and I talk about this a lot, right? Which are the five critical success factors around, at the very least, putting a pretty decent stake in the ground around psychological safety. Bearing in mind, of course, that I grew up in an environment that psychological safety wasn't even a thing, right? This is a phrase that's really kind of emerged in the last 5 or 6 years, or certainly I've become more aware of it in that time. And so those five critical success factors are, I always draw it as a pie chart. So with five chunks, like the old Trivial Pursuit thing, if anyone's old enough to remember that. But like a pie chart, five equal areas. And the first one is management commitment. So it's understanding, well, what does that actually mean? And management commitment isn't just them saying, yes, we're going to do psychological safety. Well, let me see it, let me feel it, let me hear it, let me witness it. Let me see what you mean by that in terms of your role modeling of that. So let's see that in action every single day. That's what I mean by management commitment. Second one is communication. Now, I ask this question in a lot of organisations. I ask the leadership team, how well do you think you communicate? And give yourself a score out of 5. And generally, it's a 3.5, it's a 4, or yeah, we could do a little bit better, but yeah, we're pretty good. Okay, now let's go and ask the team. And then you get, maybe it's a 2, 2.5 if you're lucky. I go, okay, so where's the mismatch here? Just the very fact that we're calling that communication and we're not even scoring the same just says we're doing a bit of that. There's something missing. So that's the second one. So it's management commitment, communication. Third one, training. How good are we at giving people the skills and the competencies that they need? And I don't just mean sending them on a course. And hotels and conference centres up and down the country are full of courses that people are attending because they've been sent, because it's ticking a box, because it's, the chips are down or performance needs to improve, so we've brought in some training or whatever. I don't mean that. I mean the kind of training that is job and role specific, and if you're in leadership, the kind of training that helps you to get better at emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and all of that stuff around how do I get the best out of the people, back to the point of people perform well when they feel good about themselves. So as a leader, how do I get back to that? So we've got management commitment, communication, and training. The fourth one for me is recruitment. This stuff needs to sit as a thread that runs throughout your recruitment process. From the point at which I apply for a position, and back comes the letter that says, good news, we'd like to see you, come for an interview. I want to see that there is stuff within that letter that encourages me to believe that my well-being is a good part of your belief and value system. I don't want to turn up and see 5 words on a board in the canteen that actually no one ever looks at. I want to see it, feel it and hear it, and part of that starts in the letter. And then don't even start me on induction, because when we get to the point of starting with that business, that induction plan, that induction process needs to have psychological safety woven all the way through it. Then for me, and this is the critical part, the critical piece of that 5-bit pie chart, if you like, is purpose. And I want to see more organisations leading with purpose, because purpose is all about productivity. If an organisation has a very, very clear purpose, and we make that very, very clear to the people who work there or that we're trying to attract, then they will very quickly feel that their values and their beliefs are aligned with what we're trying to achieve. And if they're not, they are then free to make a decision and live with the consequences of that decision or whatever. And then what we end up with is a team that are all fully behind the purpose. They all know that we're going in the same direction. And that's not about imposing that on anyone. We're not talking about dictatorships or anything like that. It's about engaging because the clearer your purpose is, it's proven that the more engaged people actually will be. So psychological safety is if I've got a culture that embraces all 5 of those elements: management, commitment, communication, training, recruitment, and the big one, which is purpose. And although that's the 5th element, in a way, that should be the bit in the middle, in theory, and properly actually. If I'm embracing all of that, then what I've got is an environment that's much more psychologically safe. Because what it's doing is it's aligning people's views and values, cultures and beliefs without making them feel that they need to adapt and change in order to belong and fit in. Does that make sense? So I now would say, if I ever went back to a sales job, I believe I'd be the best salesman ever. But don't expect me to be at the top of your performance league, because I'm measuring best not by how much I put out, not by my outputs. I'm measuring best on how much of a great environment I create for my customers and the business and everyone around me, because I want to feel good about myself first and foremost. I want to take leadership for who I am, feel good about myself, and that is then going to enable me to perform well. So I might not sell 25 cars a month, I might only sell 12, but they'll be done perfectly because I'm bought into all of that other stuff. But if any of those 5 elements are missing, or there's a chink in the armour, so to speak, and I'm going to spot that immediately, and suddenly I then now need to feel psychologically safe to say, I'm kind of feeling there's a mismatch here or something going on, help me out a little bit. And psychological safety then goes on to everyone being okay to just be themselves, bring the best version of themselves to work, and to have open, proper conversations and debates, and do that constructively. And I'm seeing lots of results of companies that are doing that well, and others that still need some help.